Hello and welcome back to Lunchable Go-to-Market Ops. We're your hosts and very burnt out and ready for the holiday season. We are your hosts, Danielle Urban, and
Lane-Hawn.
serving up grab and go HubSpot strategy every weekday in 15 minutes or less. And today we are talking about product-led growth versus enterprise sales processes and how that should impact your lead scoring. And it's actually a really cool thing to sort of break apart the different buyer journeys and understand how you can like build data around those journeys. And I just get super nerdy about this stuff.
I love this. So when we've talked about lead scoring so far this week, the number one thing we've talked about is the inbound motion of measuring your marketing behavior, how do individuals react to your branding, and then using that basically to qualify them, route them, etc. How to use lead scoring for rerouting, again, based on kind of those behavioral points. We touched on that we could use lead scoring for CX, but since they're the absolutely blessed but ignored stepchild,
Yes.
let us know if you would actually
We
like
would love
talk
to
about
help
it.
you.
But we didn't go into that in detail. This topic, I think, for me, my curiosity is how do you use product information, product behavior, and engagement to do anything other than upsell? Like, I understand it from the perspective of I gain information of how people are using my app. That allows me to know how sticky they are, when CX should get involved more, when sales needs to be involved for upsell potential, etc. How are we using it to do anything further up funnel?
Yeah, when you get into having product data help drive your marketing funnel in a PLG motion, I go like mad scientist on this because when you have the right product signals and you understand what the sort of engagement journey is once you get someone into your platform in SaaS, then you start to understand the behavior and you can market to the behavior and like move people through that PLG onboarding funnel and get them to the point of like recognizing value as fast as possible. I sat in on this webinar that was probably in like 2020 and I still remember it. And I probably, hopefully, have the deck saved somewhere. But it was talking about like the fastest path to value when you are a product manager and trying to design your onboarding and adoption into your product. And so when you are getting people through the door, the first step is like, all right, marketing has done their job to get them to the point where someone hits like, yep, sign me up, whatever that looks like. That experience has to be pretty frictionless. I don't want to go get my extra password login code, 4 different tabs to end up in your product. So hopefully you've overcome that. And then you get into the product, and the thing that the person will find value in can be kind of a tough target to nail. But as soon as you figure out what that is, maybe it's through user testing or through, just tracking activities across certain groups, then you can optimize to that. So if you know that so many people, once they reach this point, are going to expand, create a second whatever thing in your platform, then you've made it. And so how do you get people to get to the first one so that they want to build the second one? Because the second one is stickiness and the first one means value.
So I see how this could be really useful in a software system that's either based on like a freemium platform or something where you pay per whatever thing you're creating, right? And so we want you to buy more of what you're in our system to do. And so how I'm picturing this, and tell me if you've seen this done differently, but outside of your inbound net new contact hasn't at all engaged with our product score. You can also have an engagement score for the product itself, so that people who haven't kind of maxed out whatever your purchase offering is, whether that's they're on the freemium, I'll just use freemium as an example because I think it makes sense. So they're on the freemium platform now, but they're still not technically your paid annual renewal full price customer.
Right.
Those people, instead of just looking at their external, they're still engaging with our blogs. They respond to some of our sales emails. Like, they're in your application. And so you can actually monitor usage. How many users have they gotten in there? How much time are they spending? What types of activities are they doing? Are they going into even the core features? that have intrinsic value and stickiness factor for your existing clients. And then that can then enable both sales and marketing tactics to know, okay, now they need to go down this particular type of nurture path where we're educating them on these specific features. We're helping kind of drive adoption more on the specifics of what they're needing to feel sticky.
Yeah.
And then at that point, talk to me about the score though. Where does the score come into play? Does it come into play on routing? Does it come into play on the nurture tracks? Like
all of the above. I mean, as soon as you get your product data coming into HubSpot and you get that mapped, whatever it looks like for your subscription and your, product onboarding journey, it unlocks a lot. So lead scoring is one piece of that, and that's where we're going to try and stay focused today. But clearly, we've gotten pretty far off that already. But the scoring can be things like has logged in twice. And so if you have a last login date, if that has changed, add points. If there's created a blank, whatever it is in your platform, add 20 points for that. If they, come back 2 days in a row, add more points for that. And so you have to figure out some of those calculations in HubSpot, but it still means that you can score them up and flag them as that score changes.
So then we're unpacking this the same way that we would when we initially would build a behavioral lead score, which is we look at what we know it takes to convert someone to the next life cycle stage.
Exactly.
And we say, okay, it typically takes people 50 points worth, 10 points worth, whatever of these activities before we know that they're ready to move to sales. And so this in turn is saying, okay, we think it takes at least 3 logins, at least creating 2 things, and at least having 1 or 2 users, in the platform and doing 1 search article before someone's ready to actually talk to a salesperson to upgrade. And so if you know what those kind of different elements are, you create the score. When they hit those thresholds, that's when you ping sales to say, now's your opportunity to go to this freemium user. They're going to be more ready to buy than if you just have a default, like 4 days after somebody becomes a premium user, we always reach out. Like, who knows? They may not have logged in yet. Like, may have been a busy week. Kids were sick. We don't know. But if we do it based off of their actual product usage, now we're a little bit more timely with our follow-up.
Exactly. And you can also base your follow-up on the demo scores that you have, or the demographic. I shouldn't say demo in the context of PLG and enterprise, but demographic score. So if you have your fit score, if you have your fit score that says, they are already high, then if their, product onboarding score or their product engagement score is low and doesn't move up in the first week, let's put them on a top tier list that our CSMs are going to go reach out to them, or your BDRs or whoever it is that's going to help guide them through that next step and make sure that they recognize value, because you've done so much work to get them to the point where they sign up. And maybe that's your 10-point mark. And then, although I know you do onesie twosie things, but in my world, I usually do 5s and 10s for scoring. But let's say you add 10 points for signing up for the product. That's your baseline, and they have a super high fit score of 75. And then they don't come back another day, or they don't log in again, or they click 2 buttons in the platform and then bounce. You probably want to call them and figure out why for your sales process.
And then you have the red flags. Both of them deserve action, but which action and the timeliness of the action is going to change. And I think depending on the company, I mean, I've worked places where we had onboarding reps that was your entire gig, was just to get product adoption to happen, right? But within that, you might have multiple different tracks of how someone might be onboarded and who we offer one-on-one consultation and training, and who we do team demonstrations for, and who, there's different levels of engagement that we might offer depending on how valuable we think it might turn out to be of a client. And I could see scoring go really well there, because then I could actually say, hey, it's worth it for you to actually reach out and offer a customized one-on-one, we're going to solve your problems live. We're going to spend a whole hour with you unpacking this. For this particular team. This team over here, give them a little pre-recorded webinar and
Right.
be like, we think this will help. Like, there's a variety of kind of amount of effort that you can give depending on where people are at.
And that's where your fit scores come into play, because we've talked earlier this week about how I usually recommend at least 2 scores, usually 3. You get your contact fit score, your company fit score, and your behavioral score. Now we're talking about a product engagement score, which would be a 4th, but that can help your customer success team or your onboarding team determine if the company score is high, then you want to flag them for any changes in score on the product engagement side. So like if they have signed in at all, you probably want to call them because they are your target customer. And it really depends on the contact fit score, how you approach that. But if it also depends on your selling style or your selling go-to-market approach. Because if you're like Slack or ChatGPT and you want to sell to people and you want to bring them back and you want to understand their product behavior, I'm one person, and so they're probably not going to follow up with me. And the way that they sell it to enterprise would be very different, but they might find entry points with different contact types or different contact scores when they look at it on the back end. But if you're someone like, I don't even know, like Hunter or Apollo, where you're almost definitely going to get a contract at the company level, then it'll be similar in that you get that grassroots movement and you get, that time to value with the initial users, but then you really want to focus on, and you know what, actually they're pretty similar. Now that I talked through this whole thing, the approach that like ChatGPT would take to sell you a corporate license versus like Apollo would take to sell you a corporate license would probably look pretty similar.
Yeah, no, for sure. You said something, and before we wrap up our week on lead scoring, I want to circle back to it. So you can have 5 lead scores in HubSpot. We've talked about doing contact behavior, contact demographic as 2 primaries.
Yeah.
Talked about doing company demographic as well. We're talking about doing a product score, if that's applicable for how your business operates. And then we've also talked about having a reconversion or recycle behavioral score on the contact level. So there's 5 right there.
And then we told you to keep one for a test. So you just have to upgrade.
You get no tests anymore. Yeah. Once you've built these, they're perfect. You never go back. But those get you to the 5 right there. And quite frankly, I've never used 5 scores with any instance that I've had yet. And so it's kind of shocking going through this conversation this week and being like, I could very easily now see myself as me, like going and building out like 5 consistent scores, at least 4, from now on, and that being kind of adopted as my norm. So like, hopefully this has been helpful to other people, but if not, I think we have solved lots of problems by just sharing knowledge with each other, but also our own knowledge in ways that maybe we haven't thought about it before. So I've appreciated the time, and now am going to immediately go build reconversion.
Scores. Well, I get really obsessive about scores. I love scores. Because I recorded a session with Chris Carolyn, I think it was back over the summer, maybe early fall, where I talked about all the different ways that you could use lead score. So like this is some of the ones I think that we talked about. I don't think we ever talked about a reconversion score, but I really like that one. But then you can also add in my goal in talking to Andres Bustos as they rolled out the new lead scoring app, he's the product manager for it, was trying to figure out how can you do like a marketing influence score post opportunity creation. So marketing's always fighting for budget, and they talk about influencing the pipeline. So how do you show that marketing activities are influencing pipeline? You build a score and you set it to 0 as soon as the contact or the company is associated to the opportunity. So that's where that behavioral reset to 0 thing is a total game changer for that effort. So I haven't built it yet, but I want to. Somebody hire me to build it for them.
That's pretty much the exact same process that I do for the attribution based on wanting to be able to separate pre-op and post-op is basically a score that is not using the score, but field, so it's using a score process.
Some of my scores are roll-ups or counts or sums as well, because I build them in lots of different ways.
So yeah, same concept. But I love the fact that you can just reset it. I will never do that for my holistic.
I will. I'll take one for the team.
I will not do it, but I would do it for reconversion. I would do it for specific needs as its only type. And I think that will be a wonderful use. So this has been a fun week. I don't think we have a theme picked out for next week. So if people have opinions, let us know. We're not going to be doing a full week. It's Christmas. And
I'll be eating cookies and sleeping.
I don't know about the sleeping part for either of us. That's really nice.
It's a nice thought. I'll be in pajamas.
Yeah. But we might come on once or twice just to say hi to anybody, especially if you're stuck in the office. We do not want you left alone. So we will come join on LinkedIn.
Yeah. See you after the holidays.
All right. Bye.